CJ Stroud continues to struggle, but his offensive coordinator provides him for an excuse. Is it something that we should take into account, or is it just an excuse? Plus, perhaps the most important, or one of the most important decisions that D'Amico Ryans made that we didn't see coming. Tank Dell continues to thrive, and a lot more. Let's freaking go inside the locker room.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop. Won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too plugged in daily.
All right, welcome to the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. We're 6 weeks into this mofo, and it is the first of the month. This is the number one source for digital content. You can hear the number one source for Texans radio content, 10 to 2 Central, Sports Radio 610, and the Odyssey app. Talk to Matt Burke today, Thursday. Y'all do not want to miss who we're going to have on. That's all I can say. You do not want to miss. One of the most, this is going to be a big one. This is going to be a really, really big one on Thursday. So ride along, download the Odyssey app. We're all in this together. This is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. Put your comments in. If they're fluid, if they go with the flow, then we will get those in. If they're interesting, but they don't necessarily go with the flow, then we will get to them later. I will star them and we will get to them later. Not going to get hijacked or anything like that. No trolling. Just some Texans fans or some people that want to keep up with the Texans and get a pulse of things coming through in the locker room. Let's start with the most important position on the team, quarterback. CJ Stroud. There were two plays that are being talked about the most, rightfully so. CJ Stroud threw an interception to Steven Nelson, his third interception in 2 days. We'll hear what Bobby Slowik had to say about CJ Stroud's struggles. I think it's going to be interesting for a lot of you. Some would say, like someone skeptical or pessimistic might say it's an excuse. When you think about it, it might be a reason. Not sure. I don't know what CJ Stroud's going to be as an NFL quarterback, but Bobby Slowik seems to like him. The teammates seem to like him, and I don't think this is like a legit quarterback competition. Other play of the day, this was Davis Mills. He threw a pass to Nico Collins on the sidelines, about a 40-yard rope. Collins made the sliding catch. Here's the thing, and Luke Durrett right on cue says this. Please address all the people hyping up Mills on these throws where he would have been sacked. He definitely would have been sacked on that play. And there was some extra time that Nico Collins had that he wouldn't have had in a game. And in the NFL, covering someone for 5 seconds, covering someone for 4 seconds, whatever it is, it's not possible. Even the most average receiver can get open on a DB when you have extra time. So I don't know. It was a good throw. It was a nice throw. In one-on-ones, it might have gone down, but Jalen Petrie definitely would have had the sack there. So yes, that is something that happened. We're going to get to the John McClain getting owned thing, I promise. I see people bringing that up. Birdie says he's happy that John McClain got owned. We'll get into that at the end of the show. We don't need to start with that. Yeah. Watch the film. Says, do you think 11 on 11 would make the offense and QB perform better? Heard on the podcast on 610 about Mika running 11 on 11 to help the QB fill the pocket. Yeah, I think 11 on 11 is always good for feel. And they've been running a lot of 11 on 11. Davis Mills just flat out looked better today. Now, did he look awesome? No. Did CJ Stroud look awful? Didn't look great. Is it about the defense? Is it about learning? Or is it about something else? Bobby Slowik, the savant, one of the most interesting guys in the building, one of the most important guys in the building. He spoke today. And I got to tell you, I am really impressed with the way Bobby Slowik sounds. Now, does that mean that Bobby Slowik is going to be some sort of good play caller? I have no idea. He's never done it. He might just be a guy that's a really good resource for a coach. That might be what Bobby Slowik is. But when he talks, and when you hear players and you talk to players, and they're saying the way in which he teaches, and they're speaking on that, whether it's Robert Woods, whether it's Dalton Schultz, whether it's Tank Dell, even Will Anderson, the word of camp. There's a couple of words that the Texans have thrown out that I think matter. Now, the one word is swarm. We've heard D'Amico Ryan say swarm a lot. The other word is why. And it seems like the coaches are really emphasizing and getting across the why when it comes to why they're teaching what they teach. They're not just focusing on the what. They're not saying, hey, go out there and do this. They're focusing on the why of why that actually happened. Speaking of why, AJ asks, OJ Howard got released today. Should the Texans bring him back? I'm going to ask you what I'm focusing on. Why? Why? Why would you do that? But the Texans are explaining why they are doing things. The coaches. Does it matter? I don't know. But I do think it's good for players to at least understand the why. And there seems to be open dialogue when it comes to what the Texans are doing, what they're discussing, etc. And this is Bobby Slowik. This one's interesting right here. This is Bobby Slowik talking about CJ Stroud's struggles. He throws another interception, and perhaps a reason / element as to why that might be happening. Does Bobby Slowik have a point or not? Here's the offensive coordinator for your Texans talking about the why and why CJ Stroud may be struggling.
First thing I've seen is that it is really hot in Houston. I know that's like there's challenges that come with that. Making sure that you know how to handle the heat. You know how to handle the challenges of a wet ball. You know how to handle the challenges of a center who maybe just ran 4 run plays in a row and 30 yards down the field, and he's a little greased up. And having answers and preparation for that is a big part of just being able to handle the environment. Then on top of that, being able to continue to trust his feet, go through his progressions, which he's done a really good job of as we get through camp. And then mistakes get made along the way. Sometimes it's a receiver, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's him. And you kind of just learn from them, grow from them, bank it. That's what training camp's about. Training camp's about good on good, not always having a perfect play and seeing if we can make it work, because that winds up paying off in season.
So I'm going to ask you guys a question. Is Bobby Slowik making a point? Is the heat a valid excuse for a guy like CJ Stroud? Now, here's the thing about the heat. He's not going to play in this. So CJ Stroud will never in his entire NFL career play in 100-degree heat. It won't happen. Never did it. He's going to be indoors for the Texans. He's going to be indoors against the Colts. Jacksonville isn't cold, that hot, and neither is Tennessee at all. You also have Davis Mills, who has been in this heat for now his 3rd season. Doesn't matter. Bobby Slowik seems to think it does. He seems to be taking it into account. And quite frankly, we've had a lot of context clues, whether it's Laramie Tunsil, whether it's Titus Howard, whether it's Jalen Petrie, to where they're Team CJ. When I hear that, it seems like Bobby Slowik might be Team CJ too. But the most important thing for a quarterback is his ability to be able to have a short-term memory and bounce back when he struggles. Does CJ Stroud possess the skills, the intangibles, the maturity to be able to bounce back after he makes mistakes, Bobby Slowik's a believer.
Absolutely. Usually he'll turn right around and he can say what went wrong. Whether it was him, me, like I said, receiver, protection. I mean, he has a great feel for what's happening around him. And it doesn't take all the way until the film room to be able to talk about it and know how to handle it. He has an idea before we see the tape. Typically with him, the tape is just verifying what he already knows.
Okay. So that's what he's saying. That's what Bobby Slowik is saying. He does possess the ability to forget these things. I don't know about y'all, but it just seems like he's very, very team heat. By the way, I love the comments. I appreciate all the comments coming through. How did OJ Howard get brought up in this now? What are we doing? I know they're thin at tight end. I know that, Brevin Jordan's on the sidelines. I know that Tegan Quinturiano is probably close to being back. I know Dalton Schultz hurt his side. What the hell are we doing with this OJ Howard talk? He sucks. Why? Why would you want to bring him in? I don't even think he's good at Shrek at this point. You guys are driving me nuts. We're supposed to be past those days. I actually think the tight end room is straight. Right now it's a little bit depleted, but I actually think it's pretty straight. Keep the comments going in, but we're eliminating the OJ Howard stuff. That gets you put in timeout. No disrespect. That's absolute silliness that on a day in which Bobby Slowik speaks, CJ Stroud struggles, there's no season-ending injuries, OJ Howard comes up. You guys ought to be ashamed of yourself bringing that crap up. That sucks. That's a call that would get that wouldn't even get through on the air, on the show. Let's hear more from Bobby Slowik, and this is where you just got to hit crisscross applesauce and appreciate, maybe not crown, but appreciate what Bobby Slowik is saying, because he knows how to speak very, very intriguingly. But this is Bobby Slowik. There's a fine line between teaching and learning yourself and not feeling like you know everything and you have all the answers. Bill O'Brien. Bobby Slowik at least says that he knows how to practice that, and we've heard players follow that up. Here is the savant, Bobby Slowik, talking about the ability to teach versus learn during his first podium appearance of training camp.
You got to be willing to teach in many different ways. Some people can listen and learn. Some people need to see it and they can learn. Some people need to go do it and they can learn. Some people need to draw it and they can, there's all different kinds of avenues of learning. We try to make sure we attack all of those. But as I mentioned before, when you have a whole new crew, whole new staff, whole new coordinator, what's been awesome about the offense is just we're all growing together. I mean, there's mistakes made every day, every play. We haven't had a perfect play yet, and that includes the play call. So you can just be really open on what needs to be better and how do we change it and what do we do better so that by the time we get to week 1 and we're playing Baltimore, we're at the peak of where we want to be and we're ready to roll.
That's an impressive right there. But what is the philosophy going to be when it comes to Bobby Slowik's offense? It's hard to say because he doesn't have the weapons that Mike McDaniel has. He doesn't have the weapons that a lot of these guys have had. So it's hard to say. But here's Bobby Slowik talking about what his philosophy is. And this is kind of a philosophy that it doesn't matter if you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. It doesn't matter if you have Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. It doesn't matter if you have Dameon Pierce, Dalton Schultz, and the receivers. If this philosophy is there, it's something that you want in any situation. Here's Bobby Slowik talking about that. What's the balance between,
No matter what we're doing, we're going to stick to these 3 things. And we're going to attack, we're going to run off the ball, we're going to be efficient in the pass game, we're going to be extremely detailed in our routes. There's just these core things that have nothing to do with the lines on the paper that are just a part of how I think you should play offensive football. That more so than anything is what I learned on my journey that I'm trying to implement.
All right. That's what he learned on his journey that he's trying to implement. So we'll see if that gets implemented. But Bobby Slowik says the heat is something for CJ Stroud. It's easy to dismiss. It's easy to roll your eyes. But it's also easy to say he's never going to play in that. And I don't know about you. I have people from out of town. I have people from Dallas come here or, somewhere not from here, Oklahoma, family members from Oklahoma. They can't even hang in this Houston heat. Who knows? That's what Bobby Slowik said. Don't blame me. Don't kill the messenger. Question that I'm asking after the discussion that I had with Matt Burke, the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. And this is a question I want to ask y'all. Do you think that maybe Matt Burke, here's the question, the hire was a bigger deal than we gave it credit for? And I'm saying I'm not excluding myself from any of you. And maybe you were excited about the Matt Burke thing. But I'm not saying that people necessarily, criticize the Matt Burke hire. But sometimes when you hire coordinators, you look at it as, okay, this guy's called an offense and done this. This guy coached under this guy. He can do that. So on and so forth. If you did that with Matt Burke, you just looked at a couple years in Miami that were on paper not the most impressive things that you've ever seen. But I'm starting to wonder, is Matt Burke a bigger deal and going to be a much more positive asset than we give him credit for? No, he's probably not going to call the defense. You've had DeMeco Ryan say that he's going to call the defense. And if you know next to nothing about Matt Burke, you've come to the right place. That's why the Locker Room is the number one source for digital content. That's why In the Loop is the number one source for Texans radio content. But a lot of times when it comes to, let's say, like a star basketball player, a lot of time he's not going to gel with another superstar. And we look at DeMeco Ryans as a superstar coach. So if DeMeco Ryans brought in someone who was a really, really good defensive coordinator and he was working with him, how are those guys going to gel? Like, based on the experience, how are those guys going to gel? Sometimes you might just need a complementary piece. Matt Burke has experience as a defensive coordinator. He has experience as someone who worked on analytics with the Jets. He has experience as someone who was in charge of challenges with the Jets. And he has experience on the defensive line. And most importantly, he has a lot of experience in this system going back to when this system came about. Let's hear from the man himself. This is Matt Burke talking about his history with this defensive system. And I think you might start wondering, maybe this is a little bit bigger of a deal, or maybe he's a little bit more of an asset than just some bozo defensive coach that's going to come here and follow around DeMeco Ryans, and we all know it's DeMeco Ryans' defense. Here's Matt Burke talking about his familiarity with this system and what DeMeco Ryans was looking for when they went through the process of interviewing defensive coordinators.
If you really want to go back in history, the front part of this defense was really, I was kind of part of when it was established with, Jim Schwartz and Jim Washburn and some of those guys back in the Titans days, and then moving to Detroit and Philly. So when Saleh and DeMeco were in San Fran, they kind of had the coverage package that they like to use, and they married up the front. So I think when DeMeco was going through this process, I think he was looking for someone to marry up, someone that knew the front, that had the history with it that I did, help on that side of things as much as anything else. So that's really where the conversations started of my history with the front and the D-line and how we play. So I think that's kind of where I'm trying to just.
But it's also more than X's and O's. It's personalities, meshing, all that stuff. How'd that play?
We had a lot of overlapping circles, if you will. JJ, there was just a lot of people that knew both of us pretty well, that we both trusted as sources saying, hey, I think you guys would kind of connect. And so, and then obviously having the last 6 months or so to go through this process with him reaffirmed that.
Now, I think people are doing what I think we made the mistake in doing. You have Luke Durrett saying Burke as DC doesn't matter. D'Amico is calling plays. You have Lauro saying Matt Burke is just holding D'Amico's coffee. I understand that. But I also think that you can still be a resource. Bill Belichick needed resources. He needed guys to help him. I'm not saying D'Amico's Bill Belichick. My point is that even the best defensive coordinators, the best defensive minds had to bring in complementary guys. So that's what the overall point is of Matt Burke. I get it. Yeah, you have D'Amico Ryans, who's a good defensive coordinator. But if you have someone who complements him, then I think that's a big deal, especially when this guy has a strong history with this system. Now, the other thing is, how are they going to work together? We've seen good coaches. A lot of times there's egos. We've seen them kind of butt heads. I asked Matt Burke about the balance of having 20 years of experience, which is over twice as much as D'Amico Ryans as a head coach, and being able to kind of use your skills to give D'Amico what he needs, because we all know this is D'Amico's show. Here's Matt Burke on that.
What's the balance between, maybe inserting yourself and saying what you know, and then also at the same time kind of trying to balance what D'Amico wants and needs?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say it starts with his vision, right? Like he has a very clear picture of what he wants the defense to look like.
Swarm.
Yes, that's another buzz, right? We gotta check that off the checklist. So like I think my role trying to serve his vision as a starting point is where it happens. He is, I mean, you guys obviously have spent time on him. He's awesome. He's an amazing person and human being. So there's no, well, I mean, we all have egos, right?
Yeah.
But there's no ego in the room in that moment to say like, I don't see it this way. And it's really more conversation or dialogue to say, hey, I've done this in the past, or what do you think here? Hey, how do you want to coach this? And it's really just a back and forth between the whole staff. So it can be a hard, I think if the personalities are different or don't mesh, it can be sort of a hard fit, but it's been really, really fun. Actually, I'm
enjoying it.
It's one of the most fun camps I've had, just with the buzz here too.
Okay. So he's enjoying it. What about the notion? And there were some who said the Texans need a coach, a former head coach that can help D'Amico. He can help him with game management. He can show him what he's done. Matt Burke, you might not have known this. Matt Burke's actually been in charge. He's worked on the analytics side, and he's also worked on the game management side. Here's the final piece from Matt Burke talking about that.
I mean, we have a department here that does stuff. Again, I look at all that. For me, like all my experiences, I just try to like offer up to whatever anyone needs. Like I'm not here to like tell people how to do their job. I've had like when I was with Sal in New York, like that was a very specific role that I was filling there. And same with D'Amico, like even going through some of these scenarios, I just try to stand next to him and say, hey, thinking about timeout here, thinking about this. Like,
yeah, because you've done game management too, right?
Yeah. So just, again, I'm really trying to just offer up my services and say, hey, these are my experiences and things I've done and ways I've coached or jobs I've had or analytics stuff I've done. And if it helps, great. If it doesn't, then we move on. So
is game management something you're going to help with here since you've done it before?
I haven't had those like direct conversations.
Have you played Madden? I think that's
no, I
the
don't.
best. I feel like it helps.
That's how you learn.
I feel like us millennials are better at game management. It's easy for me to say though. I'm usually sitting there like drinking a beer and like, call timeout.
Yeah. That specific experience in New York, being the guy to do that for him and saying all those things, challenges, changed my focus a little bit on stuff, obviously weekly, that I was preparing and how I approach the season. But it was a cool experience to have that kind of in my background.
All right. Very interesting stuff from Matt Burke. You can hear the full interview on the Odyssey app on In the Loop Sports Radio 610. Might be kind of a little bit of a nice little complimentary piece. Is he going to be calling the defense? Probably not. But it's something to keep an eye on. And it seems like it might be a good resource. So maybe it's a little bit more important than we gave it credit for. Some people still not giving it credit, which I can understand because we'll see what happens. But do you think D'Amico Ryans needs like a defensive coordinator to come in here and call the defense? Do you think it's good to have a resource some of your eyes? I would think so. I think most coaches in NFL history have had such a thing. I'm going to get to a couple of the comments before we get to John McClain. Joe Wolf has a comment. He says, defensive backs are elite. What do you think about the pass rush? You think we will be better at getting to QBs than last year? Yes. They are not just running a base defense. They are blitzing. They are giving CJ and Davis Mills everything that they can handle. And I do anticipate they're going to get after the quarterback a lot better. Got a lot of options, got better personnel. So, yes, I do anticipate that. And you can kind of see it early on there. Devin asks, how's Horton and Hill been? If you get to see much, Hill, Horton, little bit here and there. I know Cole Thompson seems to love him. I think Cole asked another question about Horton today. I think he's asked like 3. I don't know where he fits in this rotation, but an intriguing guy nonetheless. And he beat the living crap out of the Longhorns. So we'll see how that goes. Watch the film says great line of communication between all the coordinators and coaches, brainstorming and open tactics. I like the sound of that. And you can kind of hear it from the players as well. Going through day 6, Texans camp observations here in the locker room. Next question from AJ. How's Harris been in practice? He's been good. Christian Harris is really good. He has some good recognition, made a good play today, a couple of good plays today. Perhaps the worst play that he's had, it was pretty much as simple as turnaround. The play that Brevin Jordan actually got hurt on, he was stride for stride, just didn't turn his head around. But Christian Harris has looked good. The linebackers have looked good. Glenn says, can't wait to see live action with the Patriots. That'll tell us something. Not sure what, but something. No doubt. And it's going to be important for these coordinators. Like, even if like, let's say it's the 4th quarter and you're seeing guys that are going to be future bouncers at clubs and future grad assistants at their colleges on the field, the logistics and stuff for Bobby Slowik to be calling plays and communicating, and Matt Burke and D'Amico Ryans to be communicating. I mean, you're going to see those guys, they're going to be sweating all the way throughout. There's going to be no relaxation on those guys, and that's something they're going to have to figure out. So 100%, I mean, that's really something you got to check out. The delay of games. Does a challenge come in? They're going to be, I mean, the reps for them, a new coaching staff, a first-year head coach, those are likely more important than maybe play, even like some of the players' reps. So for sure, going to be very interesting to see. Ozzy asks, when do I think QB1 will be announced? I put the over-under at August 20th. I would say around the Miami joint practice, I would say. Major Payne, a.k.a. Major Obvious, says it'll be announced sometime between now and the first regular season game. That's brilliant stuff by Major Payne. Lauro says, is Robert Woods' contract the worst on the team? I never hear his name called. No, he's awesome. He was off today. So that's probably why you didn't hear his name. He was off, veteran day off. And quite frankly, he knows the system. I think they're getting the other guys some work on the side. But no, Robert Woods' contract worst on the team. The hell are we doing? Because of 5 days of practice? Come on, man. Prime time, why does it seem like the D-line is in the backfield most of the time? Because they are. Jacoby asks, makes sense, Coach SLO. Going back to that D-line, Bobby Slowik actually said there's an advantage right now for the D-line because, I mean, they're scheming, man. They're moving around. They're throwing different looks. They're really kind of emptying the kitchen sink on the defense. This isn't like just a base defense. Let's get their confidence up. They're throwing some stuff. They're throwing some blitzes. I mean, have you heard, like, a couple of the plays that we've talked about? Do you notice that when we talk about, plays that wouldn't have counted, one of them was, I think, Christian Harris would have had a sack, if I'm not mistaken. And the other one was Jalen Petrie. And that's a linebacker and a safety. So you tell me what they're doing. I mean, that tells you that they're blitzing, which I know is music to a lot of people's ears because Lovie Smith was against blitzing and there was a lot of base defense in the past. So, yeah, there's that. How do the running backs look? The running backs, They look okay. The first two look really good, and then the rest are just guys. We're going to have to see what happens in training camp, but the rest are just guys at this point. Haven't seen any of them just really stick out. Some like Valladay. Seems like there's like a weird excitement whenever he touches the ball. But yeah, they look okay. Devin asks, who's your surprise wide receiver besides the top six? The top six are set. I think your roster's set at wide receiver. Robert Woods is going to be on the team. Noah Brown's going to be on the team. John Mechie's going to be on the team. Tank Dell's going to be on the team. Nico Collins is going to be on the team, although it doesn't seem like he can run routes. And Xavier Hutchinson's going to be on the team. I find that Nico Collins thing very interesting because Nico Collins is a guy who he's going to be your deep threat. It seems like he's the best deep threat by far. And a lot of times he makes those plays, but you never see him outside of that, or you very rarely do. And there's been an instance where Bobby Slowik has had to, spend some extra time with him between periods, which is nothing huge. But it was after he got a procedure penalty, I believe. And then you've had times like after practice where Derek Stingley and Steven Nelson are kind of spending extra time with him. And it's almost like they're trying to teach him how to get off the line of scrimmage. They're lining up and they're like, hey, this is how you do it. Like when Mech and Stingley are working together, they're doing stuff and it's like a two-way thing. When Nico Collins is in there, it's almost like the corners are saying, all right, this is how you get off the line. So I think Nico Collins is necessary. He's your deep threat, but he does seem to be lacking even more so than maybe even Hutchinson when it comes to anything other than, going 35, 40 yards downfield. That's just my observation. Maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm right there, but that's just me. Appreciate you, Travis, for coming through. I don't hate Nico. I just think Nico has some flaws in his game. And I think that maybe toning down the expectations for Nico would be fair. What happened to Will Fuller still in the league? No idea what happened to Will. After that PED suspension, he had like that weird departure from the Dolphins. Then he came back. I have no idea what's up with him. Making the decision of who returning punts and kicks could be stressful when you have Tank, Thomas, and King who could all take it to the house. It's Tank. I'm pretty certain it's going to be Tank that's going to be returning punts. Now, maybe we'll see like some sort of rotation or something, but Tank is the most fluid, and I think they like Tank's skills. As far as kicks, I don't know if those matter as much. There's probably only a handful of games where you'll even have to worry about that because of all the touchbacks. Do you think Hutchinson could take Collins' place as the deep threat? No, I think Collins is a decent deep threat. I think I think Hutchinson could easily take his place as a more complete receiver. I put out a video of Hutchinson today, and I said, don't sleep on 19. Some smartass said, isn't everyone and their dog talking about him? And I just said, I don't talk to dogs. I have no idea. I talk to one dog, my dog over there, Pacey. So I don't know. I don't know. Is everyone and their dog talking about Hutchinson? I think they're intrigued. When I say don't sleep on him, don't sleep on him being a contributor quite often. What do I observe the most about Will Anderson? I observe a lot, man. It's very easy to like him. He's a sharp dude, and he wants to be here. And I think that's really interesting. He wants to be here. It's almost like he thinks he's like establishing his own thing. Here was Will Anderson with us straight off the practice field, Sports Radio 610, Odyssey app. This is Will Anderson talking about always wanting to be here.
Well, just the people that they had in the building, that's one thing I'm really big on is relationships. And when you come in a place and feel the genuine, like everybody has been the exact same since I got here. since I've met with them the first time till I got here, and nobody's changed. Coaches have kept it real with me, and I appreciate that. Players have kept it real. Everybody's been the same, and that's one thing that I really big on. And then just the defense, just going back to my roots, because I wanted to play in a system that was defensive end.
Sure.
I didn't want to play linebacker. I didn't want to play outside linebacker. I didn't want to do any of that. So just the people in the system was like spot on for me.
He's really over the 3-4. And we talked to him a little bit off air too, and he kind of made it clear Will Anderson's over the 3-4, and he always wanted to be here. But as far as Will Anderson's just there's nothing really not to like about him. Like his makeup, the way he looks out there, the way he carries himself, the way that he actually plays. I actually think he can put on some weight. He's at 260. John McClain was going around asking people's weights, and that was the least he's done the last couple days. But I thought Will Anderson, there's nothing to not like about him. It's kind of like a rule. You have to like Will Anderson. Beast Mode says that Will reminds him of Mac from the program. That's funny. Jazz ZE, how is Case Keenum relationship with Stroud? Seems fine. Basically mentoring, third string reps, doing his thing. I agree Will Anderson would run through a wall with this organization. Next question from Glenn Tompkins. Burke reminds the coaches scheme some of players in certain situations to see how they'll react. Yeah, he did. And again, the full interview you can find on the Odyssey app. Devin, besides Anderson and Toho, how is Horton and Brandon Hill been in camp? Have you gotten to see much? I listen to you guys in the morning. I love the show. Thank you very much. I think I already touched on that. Horton a little bit. Hill, a little bit. Primetime says he feels like the tight end position is starting to be a bigger question mark than wide receiver in the future. No way. Tight ends are fine. They got Guitariano, who's going to be back. I predict Thursday. He was kind of ramping up pretty intensely on the side. If not sometime soon. They've got Andrew Beck, who's looking pretty good. You guys can laugh it up all you want. He looks good. Dalton Schultz is one of the best players in camp. They might be cautious with him, but nothing serious. Shrek kind of knows what he's doing. There's no concern at tight end at all. There's just some injuries right now. Tight ends are going to be fine. Lauro says Stingley will get tested and constantly. I want the freshman LSU Sting to show up. Don't we all? One of the best seasons, most impressive seasons in SEC history. Cole asks, how is Kenyon Green doing? He's doing fine. Nothing huge, but he's doing okay. Let's hear from Tank Dell. We got to hear from Tank Dell for the first time at the podium. He's looked great. This is Tank Dell. We know he went to college at U of H. Here's Tank Dell talking about how he felt when he found out he was going to stay with the Texans.
Man, I saw the area code come through the phone, man. I was so excited. I could have ran to the stadium, man. But it was definitely a relief because I wanted to be here. You know, I wanted to be here with these guys, this coaching staff, this team, this unit. So it was perfect.
All right. There you go. Tank Dell. So the question of the day is Matt Burke a bigger deal than we gave him credit for during his hire? And is the sun and the heat a legit excuse for CJ Stroud? Put it in the comments, subscribe, like, all of those type of things. And we'll get to him. Still wondering if I should have picked up a different jersey than number 7. Like a Texans jersey, if you're buying a jersey right now, I would get the Anderson closer to the season. I think he's going to rock 51. A number change wouldn't shock me, but that would be what I went with. Biggest story of the day, at least when it comes to the internet. Did not want to touch on this, but we have to. It's all over Reddit. It was all over the internet. John McClain steals the show at camp for all the wrong reasons. Here it is right here. I'll pull it up. Little Twitter back and forth with John McClain and Texans PR. So the initial tweet was John McClain saying this, a perk of being the controlling owner. Janice McNair watches from an air-conditioned tent. Wonder if she'll consider an air-conditioned tent for the meeting. I've seen John McClain in that tent. And this was what John McClain had to say. Sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulties there. AKA I clicked the wrong thing. This was what John McClain said, quote, I think y'all can hear me now. I clicked something bad. John said, watch out, Locker. Nah, he didn't get me. I pushed the back. But this was John McClain and what he said. He said, a perk of being a controlling owner, Janice McNair watches from an air-conditioned tent and wonder if she'll consider an air-conditioned tent for the media. That's what John McClain said. A perk of being a controlling owner, Janice McNair watches from an air-conditioned tent, wonder if she'll consider an air-conditioned tent for the media. Houston Texans PR then replied, and they said there is literally an air-conditioned tent for media at every practice. You can see it right there. And as someone who's at every practice, I can say John McClain spends quite a lot of time in there. He's been in there a couple of times. Now, a couple of things about this that I think deserve a little bit of attention when it comes to McClain. First of all, what the hell was the point of that? He reacted as if, oh, I'm an idiot. I didn't know there was an air-conditioned tent. It doesn't matter if there's an air-conditioned tent. We're freaking media. Like, I was talking about this the other day. I can't stand when media types bitch about media food. No fan gives a shit. Quite frankly, you're lucky to get anything from these teams. So that's beside the point. The other thing is this, and I said this when McClain came on, and we kind of went off on this on there. And the only reason we're talking about this is because it trended. It had almost 1 million views at this point, that tweet. Janice McNair's 86, man. So whether she's a billionaire owner or not, she's 86 years old. 86 years old, probably they probably need air conditioning. I mean, I don't know. Other day I was going to camp. I saw a 64-year-old started fainting. I had to catch her, and we had to get her the EMT. Janice is 86. So, yeah, of course she does. And you really think Janice McNair is the one that's going to sit there and be able to build your damn air conditioning tent, which already exists? That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. With all the times that the McNair name has gotten drugged through the mud, it's pretty disgraceful and distasteful that one of the faces of football in this town would just throw that out there like that. Because it came across as him acting like Janice McNair is some cake-eating billionaire owner sitting there in luxury in air conditioning as all these media types sit there and burn to death. And even if we didn't have a tent, who gives a shit? Once again, But that's not even the case. She's 86, man. And my thing is this. With the way that he's defended Amy Adams Amy Adams, whatever the hell her name is, Stank, whatever. The hell is her name? Amy Adams what? With the way he defends her, when she clearly has a little bit of spite for the Texans, rightfully so. If he had 1% of the compassion for Janice McNair that he has for Amy Adams, the Tennessee Titans owner, he wouldn't have said something that stupid. That was idiotic. And my thing is this, it's not about you not knowing that they have an air-conditioned tent. That's beside the point. That was idiotic, period. That was just stupid. It's embarrassing for a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons. And there's a reason Texans PR got a little bit pissed off about it. Because it was tone deaf. It was tone deaf for a lot of reasons. It's been a rough week for McClain. Rough couple of weeks when it comes to the Oilers and stuff like that. But that sucked. That was bad. And John's a great guy. I love John McClain. He's the nicest guy in the world. He would do anything for anyone. He's a legend. But man, that was tough, man. And you combine it with the Tennessee stuff, it's just been pretty rough for him. And you have to say that type of stuff because it was ridiculous. That was stupid. Janice McNair, you know how sweet she is? The other thing about it is this. I could go on for this forever. And maybe this is like the downtime. You don't think John McClain could contact Janice McNair and text her? She's not even probably the person that texts, but Cal and Hannah are sitting 10 feet from John McClain. They're not in AC. You know why? It's not fucking 86. They're not 86 years old. And Janice has been at practice before. She was never sitting in the AC. 86-year-olds need AC. Owners can get AC. Media is not entitled to AC, but you happen to have AC? Just develop a little bit of the compassion for Janice that you give Amy Adams Stank or whatever her name is. I thought that was a tough look for old John. Really tough. But it's all good. Still love him, but damn, he needs to hit the showers after that one. That one was a really rough performance by old McClain. Rough. Really rough. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Appreciate everyone for commenting, riding along. Off day tomorrow. I'm going to drop a Bobby Slowik video at noon. I'll do a live stream, probably a little bit shorter, 30-minute-ish. And then we're going to have day 7 on the show. Day 7 in the Loop, Sports Radio 610 Odyssey app. Be on the lookout for something big. Not overselling that. Be on the lookout for something really big. It's going to be nice. It's going to be real nice. Appreciate you for rolling through. Please subscribe. Please like. Please ride along. You're a Texans fan. We'll see how they do. If you're not, then follow along for the pulse of the squad. Remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in this together. Have a good one.
Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.